The sixth station is where Veronica wipes the face of Jesus on his way to Calvary, and he leaves an image of his face on her veil.
We just passed by the sixth station and have 3 more to go at the Via Dolorosa. The last 5 of the 14 would be inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
The 7th station, and we are very close to go outside of the city. Because the Golgotha is outside of the city, it's not in the city. So the city wall was here, in this line, in this area. And from here, starting to move outside of the city, closer to the Golgotha. Okay? So what we're going to
The 8th station is what Ellie is talking about, which is on the way out of the city. So we did not get to see it.
Jesus told the women of Jerusalem, "Do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. One cannot merely scrape away at the surface of evil. One has to get down to its roots, its causes, and the inner truth of conscience."
The speed with which we're walking does not give justice to the place where we are. More time should be given to be able to reflect on the significance of the place, as well as to the stores to the left and to the right. We are entering the most important church in the world. It is shared jointly by the Greek Orthodox, Armenian Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and to a lesser degree the Egyptian Copts, Syriacs, and Ethiopians.
The 10th station, where Jesus is stripped of his clothes, is from the station set before 2007, when Pope Benedict XVI approved an overlapping but distinct set of stations. The latter has since been related to the agreement of status quo that defined the 6 Christian religious orders that claim rights over the use of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
We'll be taking a closer look at the stone of anointing or unction, which is station 13 on the way out. This is the main Greek altar where stations 11, 12, and 13 are remembered.
The 11th station, where Jesus promises his kingdom to the repentant thief, reminds us when the thief said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." To which he replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." After 2007, the 12th station is where Jesus entrusts Mary and John to each other, and the 13th is Jesus dies on the cross. Calvary, or Golgotha, was the site immediately outside Jerusalem's walls where Jesus was crucified.
This was where the cross where Christ was crucified stood.
Beneath this chapel of Calvary is the chapel of Adam. According to tradition, Jesus was crucified over the place where Adam's skull was buried. According to some, at the crucifixion, the blood of Christ ran down the cross and through the rocks to fill the skull of Adam. Golgotha in Aramaic means the place of the skull. At the chapel of Adam, the rock of Calvary can be seen on its side through a glass window. A mosaic on the inner wall depicts the scene where the stone of anointing or stone of unction is. Tradition believes this is the spot where Jesus' body was prepared for burial by Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. He was anointed and wrapped in shrouds, as the Jews customarily prepared their dead for burial at the time. This means that the body was washed before it was wrapped in a simple shroud made of fine linen, normally a task performed by the women relatives of the deceased. After Jesus was crucified on the Friday, now known as Good Friday, his body was taken down the cross and buried in a cave tomb. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, in which no one had ever been laid. Because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there.
In just a few days, we've traced the major places where the person we've venerated all our lives was born and have died. It took just a few days, but its effect would be everlasting. I hope this would not be the last time for us to take this path again. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre was definitely the highlight of this tour. Just like the Sistine Chapel was the highlight of the tour of the Vatican for me. Our tour is not over yet, but the places we'll be going to would not leave an impression on us as what we've experienced in the last few hours. We are leaving the old city of Jerusalem via the Jaffa Gate. The Jaffa Gate is the only one in the old city gates positioned at the right angle to the wall. On the way to the bus, we have not been able to reflect on the relevance of where we've been and what we've seen. Our thoughts are on where the bus is and the next destination. It will take a while to absorb all we've experienced till now.
We'll be in Metzada. Of course, Metzada is a very interesting fortress. We're going to take the cable car. We don't going to walk all the way up because the snack pad. We're not going to do it. We're going to take the cable car. Read the Bible and think about Jericho and Jerusalem. Think, oh, it's 2 months walking. No, it's just 4 hours. Okay.
Masada is a place which has great significance in the history of the Jews. It figures prominently in the First Jewish-Roman War in 66 AD.
Bedouins are a subgroup within the Arab minority in the State of Israel, with cultural, historical, social, and political uniqueness. The Bedouin population make up about 3.5% of the Israeli population.
We stopped for a while to take pictures of the zero sea level point in Israel as we did in Jordan.
Just a minute, I'll slip something on.
This means that if we proceed to go to the Dead Sea, we will be descending 400 meters from this point.
The Dead Sea, which borders Israel, the West Bank, and Jordan, is a salt lake whose banks are more than 400 meters below sea level, which is the lowest point on dry land.
The Dead Sea is 9.5 times as salty as the ocean. It is 300 meters deep and is 50 kilometers long and 15 kilometers wide. It has been the supplier of a wide variety of products, from asphalt for Egyptian mummification to potash for fertilizers. People also use the salt and the minerals from the Dead Sea to create cosmetics and herbal sachets.
The Dead Sea is receding at an alarming rate. Multiple canals and pipelines were proposed to reduce its recession, which had begun causing many problems. Masada is an ancient fortress in southern Israel's Judean desert. It is on a massive plateau overlooking the Dead Sea. Masada was named as the place where David rested after fleeing from his father-in-law, King Saul. It was built around 30 BC by King Herod between 37 and 31 BC. The Siege of Masada was one of the final events of the First Jewish-Roman War, occurring from 73 to 74 AD. Almost all historical information about Masada comes from the 1st century Jewish-Roman historian Josephus.
His account contains all the elements of a fantastic drama in which Jews, Romans, and idealists fight to the death. It's no wonder that Hollywood jumped at the opportunity to tell this fascinating story. With an impressive set and thousands of extras, they created a colossal film featuring the rebel leader Eleazar, son of Yair, and the Roman commander Flavius Silva in the leading roles. We start with the Hasmoneans, who were the first to discover the advantages of this isolated cliff in the heart of the desert. The mountain, which was to be a sanctuary in troubled times, and believe me, he really had troubles. Herod, like any other king, built his palaces to the highest standards of his day. Stronghold where there are still Jewish rebels. And believe me, they didn't need Herod's palaces. The rooms in the wall were divided and used as living quarters. They lived from food in the storerooms, and they drank water from the cisterns, kindly left behind by Herod long ago. Throughout the revolt, groups of refugees sought asylum on the mountain. About 1,000 rebels gathered at this fortress in the heart of the wilderness. In 73 AD, the Romans' 10th Legion arrived with thousands of armed soldiers who deployed themselves around the mountain. An enormous war machine. And the movies do it best, after the Romans, of course. The Romans built an attack ramp. The besieged rebels rolled stones down it. The Romans lifted a tower to the top of the ramp, equipped with a battering ram to smash the wall. The besieged erect a wood and earthen wall to sustain the blows of the battering ram. The Romans burn it, but the wind almost burns their own tower. Then the wind veering as if by divine providence to the south, blowing with full force in the opposite direction, flung flames against the wall, which now was all ablaze. Oh, my loyal followers, the time has now come that obliges us to make that resolution true in practice. Let our wives die before they are abused, and our children before they have tasted slavery, and preserve ourselves in freedom as an excellent funeral monument for us, as we have preferred death before slavery.
The cable car we're riding was built in 1971. The bottom station is 257 meters below sea level, and its summit is 33 meters above sea level.
The Masada Snake Path is one of the most iconic hikes in Israel. It starts from the base of Masada and winds its way up approximately 400 meters from the lowest place on earth. The Masada Snake Path takes an hour to 90 minutes to climb and 30 to 40 minutes to descend. In 66 AD, at the beginning of the Great Jewish Revolt against the Roman Empire, a group of Jewish extremists called the Sicarii overcame the Roman garrison of Masada and settled there. The Sicarii were equally antagonistic to both Romans and other Jewish groups.
I just wish that I
The
could let things
Sicarii carried small daggers concealed in their cloaks.
lasts. I'd relax
At
about
public gatherings, they pulled out these daggers to attack Romans and Hebrew-Roman sympathizers alike, blending into the crowd after the deed to escape detection. The Sicarii are likely one of the earliest form of an organized assassination unit of cloak and daggers.
More than that. Not more than that. So this is what they have with what we have here. I think King Herod the Great never been here. He never been here because we don't have any
record of it.
At the beginning of the First Roman-Jewish War, the Sicarii gained access to Jerusalem and committed a series of atrocities in order to force the population out of docility and into war against Rome.
Also, we can see the black line. You see the black line? All what is above it, it's new. All below it, it's the they found it, okay?
In one account, they destroyed the city's food supply so that the people would be forced to fight against a Roman siege instead of negotiating peace. The story of Masada was interesting due to its similarity between the story of David and Goliath. The Romans finally came to take back the city, and they led counterattacks and sieges to starve the rebels inside. The Romans eventually took the fortress, and according to Josephus, found that most of its defenders had committed suicide rather than surrender.
Our guide Eli was quite knowledgeable in a lot of things about the history of his country. But at Masada, even with the pronouncements of the official film of the park, Eli was impressing on us a different version of what happened before at Masada. He had his own version. For instance, he was disputing the final suicide incident of the Jews since he said it was not in their culture to commit suicide, and the supposedly huge number of bones of the dead were not found. This is in spite of the film, the park attesting to this, and the existence of lots used to pick the sequence of those committing suicide.
There is a controversy between archaeology and Josephus regarding Masada. According to archaeologists, Josephus's account is incomplete and inaccurate. Josephus writes only of one palace, archaeology reveals two. Archaeologists say that Josephus's description of the northern palace contains several inaccuracies and gives exaggerated figures for the height of the walls and towers.
Whether Eli is right or wrong, since it happened in the year 73 AD, we'll probably never know. In any case, it is highly recommended that anyone who will visit this place watch the miniseries first to appreciate its significance.
Bring the water to Metzada. Of course, when the
demonstration.
rainwater fall on Metzada, they collect all the water. If you look, you can see there the arch. There's a cistern. There's another cistern there. A lot of cistern, but there is a lot of cistern also on the cliff of Metzada. And you can see all that small opening here, small opening there. You can see that opening also here. And this is opening going inside the huge cistern. They have 1 million by 1 million cube of water all over Metzada in the cistern. So what's happened? And we don't have fresh water in Metzada because we don't have a spring in Metzada. So what they are doing, what's happened? So you need to collect the water. The water always in the west, this way. So what you're doing on that hills, all over in that hills, you build a small aqueduct. You see the aqueduct?
Right.
So when the raining here on the hills of Judah, okay, what's happened to the water? Through the aqueduct all the way inside to the cistern.
Goes
Then
inside
you
the
have
hole.
a small pad that take the water all the way to the water gate, and then inside to the palace.
The siege of Masada is revered in modern Israel as a symbol of Jewish heroism. Masada became a symbol for a heroic last stand for the state of Israel and played a major role for Israel in forging national identity. To Israel, it symbolized the courage of the warriors of Masada, the strength they showed when they were able to keep hold of Masada for almost 3 years, and their choice of death over slavery and their struggle against an aggressive empire. Masada had become the site of military ceremonies. Others, however, see it as a case of Jewish radicals refusing to compromise, resorting instead to suicide and the murder of their families.
On the window is a short clip of the 1981 miniseries Masada. The film clip the Masada National Park was showing also came from the miniseries, which means they agree with its contents.
It was advertised by the network as a novel for television as a fictionalized account of the historical siege.
These are some of the lots with names of the people at Masada who committed suicide. Suicide in the sense that one person kills somebody while another person kills the first person, which they all consented to.
The miniseries starred Peter O'Toole as the Roman legion commander Lucius Flavius Silva and Peter Strauss as the Jewish commander Elizar bin Yair. There are two very steep hiking paths to the top of Masada. The Snake Trail leaves from the eastern side of the Masada Museum and gains around 300 meters in elevation. The Roman ramp, which has less elevation gain, is accessed from the western side.
The palace, we are now here, below here. You see the pillar. Pillar is just there, and then you go inside, and the king, where the king sitting here. Okay, you cannot see the king. You're coming into the room, and then the king look at you. And of course, there's a room around with the mosaic floor that connected to this period, to this time. And this was the most important palace in Masada, the Northern Palace. And you see why build it here? Because the view, because the breeze, because everything you build it here in this place, not in the middle of Masada.
Privacy.
Because in the middle of Masada, it's worse. Also, this area was higher area, so you can protect yourself better than in the other place in Masada.
So where are we there?
Considering it had been almost 2,000 years, the structures are pretty much in good condition. The dimensions of the plateau is 550 by 270 meters, making it almost 15 hectares.
To maintain coolness in the hot and dry climate of Masada, the many buildings of various sizes and functions had thick walls constructed of layers of hard dolomite stone covered with plaster. Due to its remoteness and the harsh climate of the southern end of the Judean desert, following the dissolution of the Byzantine monastic settlement in the 6th century, the Masada site remained untouched for more than 13 centuries until its rediscovery in 1828.
These rooms are the most preserved part of the fort.
The buildings and other evidence of human settlement gradually collapsed and were covered over until they were revealed in the 1960s.
The story of Masada survived in the writings of Josephus, but not many Jews read his works, and for well over 1500 years it was a more or less forgotten episode in Jewish history.
On Tuesdays and Thursdays during summer at 9 p.m., a light, sound, and pyrotechnics show is presented on the western side of the mountain. The show is about an hour long and projected onto the cliff walls of Masada. The narration is in Hebrew, but you can rent earphones for simultaneous translation into 5 languages. We'll be leaving Masada and proceed to the Qumran Park, which is 120 kilometers away north of Masada.
Hello!
Shalom!
Shalom!
The Qumran National Park is best known as the settlement nearest to the Qumran Caves, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were hidden. This Hellenistic period settlement was constructed during the reign of Yohanan Hyrcanos in the year 134 to 104 BC.
Created about 408 BC to 318 AD, 981 different manuscripts were discovered written in Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and Nabatean Aramaic.
We came here to the edge of the country facing the Dead Sea from Jerusalem to Galilee and the plains. We abandoned families, friends, and work to come to the place where we can purify ourselves and properly prepare for.
Okay, let's dance. And if you're looking here, we can see a ball. This ball is a replica, but this ball like this you found in the excavation. And dating from this ball or dating from that kind of ball. It's depend, okay? So, what it's important, because we're talking about the first century, what happened in the first simple by the hand. Like the Bedouin, how the Bedouin eating? By the hand. Okay, here, in that time, the diet in that time, it's not a meat. The diet, it's more wheat and all the kind of things, and not meat. Meat once to a year, but all the year they're eating wheat and the other thing, chickpea, wheat, all the other kind of things, and vegetables.
This Hellenistic period settlement was constructed during the reign of John Hyrcanus and was occupied most of the time until it was destroyed by the Romans in 68 AD. John Hyrcanus was a Hasmonean or Maccabean leader and Jewish high priest of the 2nd century BC. The initial discovery by Bedouin shepherds took place between 1946 and 1947. The shepherds discovered 7 scrolls housed in jars in a cave near what is now known as the Qumran site.
This is a ritual bath where the people purify themselves from here inside, and they started in the valley there, okay? That was all the water going through this valley to the Dead Sea, and then they collected here. So every year they have enough water fill up all the ritual bath, the cistern, wherever, and then they can live here in the easy way. We can see another ritual bath. See how many ritual baths we have here. Another one. You're walking into the water. Again, you're walking into the water, and the water need to cover your head. Okay? Here, for example, here this is a cistern. You see, there's no stairs. This is a cistern. You see the cistern? And here they found a juglet with a lot of coins, silver coins. Okay, here we can see the aqueduct. Continue going this way. You see the aqueduct, another ritual bath there. And you see the aqueduct continue going all that way, and this is where they are doing a pottery. Look, was used to fire. Where is it? This one. Okay? That way? Where? And this is the larger room in the side. This is the dining room. Why? Because all the people from all over coming and eating together. The people in Qumran was living around the Qumran. It was the same. This room tells us how many people in that community. So, thousands seed of dates.
Eli had also worked as an archaeologist with regards to the Dead Sea Scrolls here in the Qumran caves.
He was telling us that there was no lead as to where the caves would be, which makes its discovery difficult. These scrolls can be divided into 2 categories, biblical and non-biblical. Fragments of the book of the Hebrew canon or the Old Testament have been discovered. The Dead Sea Scrolls were most likely written by the Essenes during the period from about 200 BC to 68 AD. The Essenes were a strict Torah-observant, Messianic, Apocalyptic, Baptist, Wilderness, New Covenant Jewish sect. The scrolls contain previously unknown stories about biblical figures such as Enoch, Abraham, and Noah. The story of Abraham includes an explanation why God asked Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac.
Since going to the Jordan side of the Dead Sea, I've regretted not swimming for the experience. However, after going through at this Israeli side, I can say that it's painful if it gets on the eyes. Its taste is saltier than salty. It's painful on the skin and it might be easy to float, but it's more difficult trying to stand up again since the legs have the tendency to remain floating. All in all, I do not look forward to swimming again. On the small window is a video of the Dead Sea at the Jordan side when we were there.
The Dead Sea comprises two basins, the northern and the southern. The northern basin, where Kalia Beach is located, has a natural landscape as the evaporation rate of the seawater is less accelerated than that of the southern basin. To compensate, water is pumped into the southern basin.
The Dead Sea is receding at a rate of 3.3 feet per year. The depletion level can already be seen in the Jordan video, which was 9 years ago in 2008. We went to Israel in 2017, a difference of 9 years, or an additional depletion of 30 feet. The depletion is noticeable in the Israeli side with the number of closed resorts.
So from here we say Shalom, Masalam, and God bless from the Holy Land.